Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have Crafty Fall 2025. These are all of the fall woodland or fantastical forest Dollar Tree DIYs that I've made so far this year on my channel in one crafting marathon for you. I really hope you enjoy today's fall DIYs. For the first one, check out this cute little pumpkin they have this year from the Dollar Tree. It has like a green background pumpkin with mushrooms all over, which is exactly the vibe I was going for. But I do want to change out the little glitter Give Thanks pumpkin. And so I just went ahead and sanded off the glitter. And I designed a printable of a kind of corresponding plaid fabric with a cute little watercolor fox on there. And I will include a link to the printable in the description of today's video. I printed mine out on cardstock and I just sketched the size of the pumpkin out. If you print it at 100%, it should be the perfect size for this pumpkin. And I just sketched it on there with a pencil so that I can cut it out. I always like to print my artwork usually out on cardstock because it Mod Podges really well and I don't have to worry about any wrinkling or anything like that. This is a very soft like green and orange plaid. And then the little star of the show is going to be the fox. And I think that the fox combined with the mushrooms is going to look so cute for fall. And so I just cut that out. I will do something different for the stem. And I was able to get the glitter off of the give word really easily. So I have a nice smooth surface to Mod Podge this on. I just added a layer of Mod Podge, set this on here, and I put mine on with like a dry paper towel just to make sure that it is laying flat and I don't have any tearing. And I can go straight over it with more Mod Podge, so just a time saver. I do want to put a couple coats of Mod Podge on there to really protect it since it was just paper and I don't want it to get discolored or anything like that. It was really easy to pop this top pumpkin off and now I just need to reattach it. But first, let's do something about that stem. I'm just going to take some Dollar Tree twine and hot glue it here to the back and then simply wrap it around. Nothing crazy. I really want the star of the show to be the fox. And I really like the bow and the beads that are on the little mushroom pumpkin. But I think these are really cute. I was laughing when I was editing this because I noticed that it says $1.25 on the pumpkin. They didn't red sticker me. I wonder if they're going to get in trouble for having items in their store that say $1.25 when they're not $1.25 anymore. And I'm just going to add hot glue here and try to glue it back on exactly where I had it before over here to the side. Now, I honestly can't remember if this stood up on its own before I took it apart or if I just didn't get it together perfectly. But it didn't really want to stand up for me, so I am going to have to add like a little wood block or something to the back of it just to make sure that it stands up. These are like the giant Jenga blocks. I usually get mine at Five Below, but I've heard that Dollar Tree has them, but I have yet to see them at any of my stores. But I'm just going to glue that onto the back. You could really, do about anything. There's that $1.25 tag. It's kind of crazy that they had pre-printed all the $1.25 merchandise and then raised their price. And I'm just going to hot glue it here on the back, and that's just going to make it more stable because I want this to be a standing sign DIY. It was really easy to put together and it's so cute. Like half of the sign was already done for me with that great mushroom design. And I love mushrooms for fall. I think they can be a great crafting touch, and look how cute they look together. I think it looks so much better than it did before. And I really adore that little fox on there. I think he's so cute. And I really love this fantastical forest vibe for fall. It's a lot of like leaf prints, like mushroom print like this, but it's also a lot of plaids. And I think they can all really work well together. And this is how this one turned out. Hey guys, if you're enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button. It always helps my videos do better here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe for more DIYs. For this DIY, we're going to use 3 of the craftwood pieces from the Dollar Tree and some of those beautiful fall leaf napkins. What I wanted to do was put 3 of these little craft board signs, which are fairly large, together to make a large fall leaner sign. I want to cover them with decoupage with these great leaf napkins from the Dollar Tree. I think these are really pretty, and they're definitely that same kind of vibe that I was inspired, like lots of leaf print and beautiful fall like forest creatures. And so we're going to have a lot of that in today's video. Now for the napkin, I just cut it down bigger than I need. And then I just remove the inner layer. You just want one layer for your decoupage. And I really need one napkin for each one of my boards because they're pretty big. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all 3 of those down, separating those. I find that painter's tape works really well for separating the napkin there without tearing it or messing it up at all there. And you just want one layer to decoupage. That's really important. And I love the way this turned out. It's so pretty. Now the craftwood pieces have kind of a finished side and a rough side, you'll notice. And so you're going to want to be working on your finished side, which is nice and smooth. And I just covered mine with a very thin coat of Mod Podge and laid my piece on top. Now the reason I made it larger is so that I wouldn't have to line it up. I could just put it on there and let that dry. I also try to just smooth that out with my dry hands to make sure I don't have any bubbling and there's no wrinkling. And I do the same thing here with the other 2 wood pieces. I want to put these together where it'll make a tall vertical sign. And this is actually going to be a deer sign. I think this turned out really pretty. I don't know if this is my first deer DIY. It might be. I've done reindeer. And so I did the same thing here with the third. I don't really care if the pattern like repeats. So I think it's such a random pattern. I think it's gonna look fine either way. Once I have that dry, I go over it with like the fine sanding sponge from the Dollar Tree. You want to be really careful because the napkin does tear easily, and get a perfect cut there on my first sign. And then I do the same thing here with the other 2. Just make sure that you get it really good and dry. The great thing about this napkin is it's got like a wood board design underneath the leaves, so that really goes well with this. And if you can see any of the wood grain through the thin napkins, it's gonna kind of match the decor as well. Very subtle and pretty. So we have all 3 of those decoupaged and ready to put together. The first thing I'm going to do is add hot glue. As you can see, the craft wood from the Dollar Tree is pretty thick. I'm thinking you might be able to also do this with the wood shelves from the Dollar Tree. And then I do that with the bottom of the sign there as well. I do want to reinforce it though because it is such a big sign. So I just use my staple gun, and I think a 1/4 inch staples worked well for this width of wood. And I just stapled 3 times on each seam, and that really helped the stability on this project. Now for the deer, we are going to make the head of the deer out of this beautiful faux fur from the Dollar Tree. I think the color is perfect. Isn't that so pretty? And then I designed this deer head pattern, and I will include a link to this printable, this free printable, down in the description of today's video. And I tried to make it where it wouldn't take up very much ink on your printer. I just printed mine out on regular paper. I just need it for a pattern. So the first thing I do is just cut it out. I kind of gave it like a little bit of a fancy neck here and have the deer looking off to the side. And we're going to make the deer antlers out of another Dollar Tree material to go with this theme. And so I went ahead and cut that out, and then I kind of flip it over, lay it on my fur over here to the side so I don't use too much of the fur. And then I used one of those little chalk pencils from the crafting aisle at Dollar Tree to kind of sketch this out on the back. And I'll just try to cut off anywhere there that has some of the chalk on there, and I just go around all of the sides without pinning it or anything like that. And now I can just cut it out with my scissors. I really love this faux fur. I have used it a couple of times, I think for some spring crafting, but I think it's so pretty, and I thought this color would be really pretty for fall. They also have a similar kind of fuzzy fabric that kind of looks like a deer print, like a younger deer, like a fawn. That could be really cute too, but I really love the fuzziness of this. If you can't find it, there's other materials you could use as well, but I really like this color. If you can find something close to this color, you are going to do really well. So look how pretty that is. It's so fuzzy. I cut that out. It's perfect. And now we can put this on the sign and see how this looks. I'm not going to glue it yet because I want to make sure that I have enough room for my deer and for my antlers. And for that, I'm using the faux leather that they have on sale right now at Dollar Tree for only 25 cents. I keep finding this. I'm so excited. And I'm going to use the brown. I think you could probably get away with using the white as well. But on my white background, I thought brown would look better. And I'm just going to put it here on my Cricut Joy Extra mat. And I do have this SVG that I will include in the link below if you'd like to cut yours out with your Cricut. That's what I'm going to do, and that made it so much easier. Check that out. The setting that I used, I had to put that in my Cricut Joy Extra. It was not in there, and I will look up those settings. I had to look that up online, and I will include that in the description of today's video too. It was pretty easy to make your own custom setting, but I love how they turned out. And I'll also try to include a printable of a pattern like we did for the deer head if you don't have a Cricut machine in the description as well. I'm going to attach my faux fur here. I just use hot glue for that, so that'll totally work. I wasn't sure how hot glue and the antlers would hold up together, and I didn't want to take any chances. So I'm going to use a different kind of glue for the antlers, but it worked well for the little fuzzy deer. I just fluffed him up some. And then I'm going to use some of the tacky glue for the leather. It's nice and strong, and I won't have to worry about melting the leather at all. I know I have used heat like sublimation, but I wasn't sure how hot glue would do, just like in certain areas on that. And I'm just going to glue both of these on. This doesn't really need like a lot of extra decoration because it's got so much beautiful things going on already with that great background and the fur on the deer that I really think that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to add a hanger to the back of it because I'm going to make mine like a leaner sign. And if I ever want to, I could always add a hanger to the back, but I think it turned out really cool. See, I can just stand it up like that on a table, and this is how it turned out. My little fuzzy forest deer for fall. Isn't it so cute? A great use for that faux leather from the Dollar Tree and the faux fur. I think it's so cute. My son keeps petting him. He says it's really soft. And this is how it turned out. Isn't that so cute? It's nice and large, and I really think this is going to be really cute for my fall decor this year. For this DIY, we're going to call this like a squirrel gathering bowl. I picked up one of these bowls from the Dollar Tree. I think they're super cute. It looks like rope, and you don't have to do anything to it. It's ready to go. And I picked up one of their cute little squirrels holding a little pine cone. I thought that would be perfect for this. And I actually got my acorns at Dollar General. They're cheaper there, and I think they're kind of cute. Now, I don't want this to be top heavy, so I weighed down the bottom with some rocks from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to add some of the floral moss here on top. You could also use Spanish moss for this. That would work really well. And then we're going to add our cute little squirrel right here to the side. This project was so easy, and it's really cute. We're just going to simply fill up the rest of the bowl with acorns. And these from the Dollar Tree, they don't have like the separate caps. They're all kind of together. But as you can see, they're pretty nice. I like the way that they're painted. I'm just going to go ahead and start piling them in. And I like the fact that there's like 2 different colors. I really like the fact that they're only $1 as well. I found that the stems were a little long, kind of like a cherry stem. So I just went in and trimmed mine down, just personal preference, to make them a little bit shorter because I don't really see that long of a stem on acorns a lot of times. And I'm just going to fill the bowl up. So it'll look like the squirrel has, went out and been gathering all of the acorns for fall or for winter. And just a really easy decor piece that you could sit anywhere. This would be really cute too, like on a fall tier tray or something like that. I'm going to add a few more pieces of moss here to make it look rustic. And this DIY is ready to go. Pretty easy, huh? Let me show you how it turned out. It's super cute. Look at that adorable little squirrel. I love all of like the little woodland animals they have at Dollar Tree for fall. They have some really cute ones like this. And I think those acorns are pretty cute as well. And the bowl from the Dollar Tree just made it so much easier. I was thinking about making a rope bowl for this, but I didn't really need to. I love him. For this DIY, we're going to take a party bowl from the Dollar Tree and one of their large glass jars from the kitchen section, and we're going to make a mushroom lamp with this. I'm going to light it up with one of these battery-operated lamps from the Dollar Tree. I love those things. So let's start making a mushroom. We're going to start with the party bowl first. I was really surprised to see that that red dot on these mean that these are now $2. I didn't expect these to go up quite that much at Dollar Tree, because they're not that thick of a plastic, but okay. And then I'm going to use some brown spray paint that I picked up at Dollar General. I am going to paint the outside of it brown color. I'm not going to have the top of the mushroom light up at all. Sometimes I have when I've done like mushroom DIYs with solar lights and stuff like that. But for this one, I want it to be a dark brown color for fall, and I don't really want it to have anything light up. If you did, you could like maybe put down some circle vinyl first to let like at least the spots glow, but I wanted mine to be a brown mushroom with white spots, and I'm gonna light up the stem of the mushroom, and that's why I chose such a large jar for that, so I'd have something I could light up. This is the jar we're going to use from the Dollar Tree. I'm not going to need the lid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to frost this. That way you can't really see inside it. And it's going to make it have a really fun, warm glow, I think, for fall. Now you could do this two ways. You could frost the outside of the jar or you could frost the inside. I kind of like frosting the inside of these when I can. So I'm going to use some of this Rust-Oleum frosted glass, and I'm just going to simply spray this on the inside. I just kind of put it up on a couple caps here and spray a good coat on the inside. Just one coat I think is going to be enough for this one. It goes on kind of clear and you don't really think it's frosted, but once you start drying it, it just turns this beautiful frosted color. And I think this is going to be perfect for our mushroom lamp. I have that LED light that's going to shine down inside this and light this part up. And I always love a DIY that can light up. Now for the spots on this one, I'm just going to paint them on with one of the stencil daubers from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use the large one. It's going to give me a perfect circle. I had originally cut down some white vinyl for this to make spots, but I didn't realize the inside and the outside of this bowl both have that bevel edge on there. And so I thought it would be hard to get the vinyl to stick. So we're just going to paint it. And I'm going to try to do it all like in one go. I want some of the spots to be up high, some of the spots to be down low. And I just add as many coats as it takes to kind of cover that brown up in one go like that. And make sure I get the perfect circle. I just kind of daub it on there over and over until I get my perfect polka dot on there. I'm not going to do any spots on the very top. I'm just going to do it around the edges. And so I do one up high, one down low, and I repeat that. And then I can kind of use the other side as a guide where to put my spots because I don't want them to be uneven when I get here all the way around with the white paint. So I just kind of line them up, go down, up on my polka dots. And I'm glad that I decided to paint them. I just think the vinyl, it would be very hard to get it to stick on the surface. So we have all of our polka dots here on the mushroom cap here for our lantern. Now we can attach the light. I'm going to use this little light up base. I don't really need the plastic cup there. I just need this part. These take 3 AA batteries. I love using these in DIYs. If you were going to make yours into a solar light, you could attach a solar light to the very top. Just don't paint that section. You could leave it clear, and that would work as well. And then I'm going to use a really strong glue since this is going to be kind of defying gravity. I'm going to use a Gorilla Glue here and glue that on the battery cap, a little hot glue to get me started here in the middle, and glue that right in the middle. And I should still be able to change the batteries. It's going to be easy enough to turn on and off. All I'm going to have to do is take the cap off the mushroom lamp to turn it on and off. Like that, it's got a little switch on the side. And I'm going to simply sit it on top of the jar like that. And it's going to light up the jar below it for the pumpkin stem. Now for the base, I actually found this wood slice at Goodwill. But I wanted some kind of wood slice. If you could find a wood slice sign from the Dollar Tree, that could work as well. I just wanted something kind of rustic, and this is a perfect size. And it's kind of thick too. It's not super attractive the way that it had been stained, but I love the fact that it's a wood slice. So you're really not going to be able to see the top of it. So I'm going to add the lamp to it like that. So I just really need moss along the edges of it. So I'm going to go in with some reindeer moss here around our little lamp. And I'm just going to glue like a row of reindeer moss all the way around the edges. That way you can still kind of see that it's a wood slice. You can see the bark on the side of the wood slice. And it's not really going to get in the way of me attaching the lamp to this. And I thought the mushroom itself was just a little bit plain. So I think adding the base really took it up a notch and made it special. I'm going to hot glue mine down so it stays in place. And it's like all one part. I'm not going to put anything inside the jar. Since it's frosted, I just want that part to be lit up. And I glue that to the tray like that. And then I can sit my mushroom cap back on it that has the light on it. And this is how it turned out, our mushroom lamp. I think it's really fun for a fall woodland theme. This is what it looks like during the day. I do have it turned on, but this is what it looks like during the day. Super cute. I love the mossy base and the wood slice down there. I think that really kind of adds to the mushroom theme. And let me show you what it looks like at night. As you can see, that light inside is actually really bright. It lights up really well, and it's kind of a larger DIY. So you're gonna need like a shelf to sit this on, somewhere with a lot of room. And I really love how it turned out. I love DIYing giant mushrooms like this. I think they can be really fun. And again, you could use this outside and kind of make a solar light version of it as well. Very cute. This DIY, I'm going to use one of these welcome fall signs from the Dollar Tree. It's really cute and it's perfect for this theme with the fox, the squirrel, the little animals on there. But it's just a thin bowed sign from the Dollar Tree. It's even got a little glitter on there, but I don't mind it. It's on the pumpkins. I'm going to try to make mine into a great fall tray. I wanted a really sturdy wood, so I picked up these wood yard stakes from Dollar General. They were only $1. And they are such a great source of heavy duty wood. This turned out so sturdy in the end. I'm going to go ahead and see how long one of my sides is. I just sketched that out. And then I'm going to add 2 widths of this. So this will go all the way to the top and the bottom when I cut out the sides here. And I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to do the same thing here for another piece. And then I'm also going to cut out a second one because I want to stack these so it has tall sides like a tray. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut those out together like that and then cut it down again right about here because these yard stakes are rather long. So that comes in handy. And now we have 2 side pieces here for each one. Then I can use like the remaining piece for the bottom there. You can see it's still long enough to cover that, but I think I'm going to have to do this in parts. I'm going to have to do the side parts and then the top and bottom because I wanted to make sure that I kind of cut it down to size. And it was a little tricky how I have to attach these pieces on there because I was working around that welcome word that kind of bumps up a little bit. And I have to kind of go to the side. So I'm really going to be hanging off the edge when I attach that to the sign. But I wanted to have a warm, rich color, and so since it's wood, Antique Wax by Waverly is perfect for this. I just take the wood yard stakes that I cut down, and I'm going to stain it on 3 sides with the Antique Wax by Waverly. Just brush it on, wipe it off with a paper towel, and I forgot to take the sticker off this one, so I'll go ahead and take that off, and then just go keep on staining these. The reason I'm doing just the sides first is because I want to make sure when I cut down the top that I get the perfect width. So this is going to be a really sturdy tray. I'm so glad I decided to do this. It turned out just wonderful. Nobody would know it was a Dollar Tree sign to start with. And I've been trying to find some supplies like these yard stakes at other stores like Dollar General. I like Dollar General, but I find that they don't have a lot of stuff. I know today was the first day that I had to curb my shopping in Dollar Tree because of their high prices. They had the stacked pumpkins, first time ever available in my town. I was so excited. And then I saw the price. They're $7. And so I only bought one. I told them, I said, I probably would have bought 3 of these if you guys hadn't marked them up so much. I'm sure they're hearing that a lot. And so I'm going to attach this with hot glue now that I have a stain on the side there that wasn't stained to make it glue a little better. And you can see I'm barely on the sign because of that word. So I reinforced it with my staple gun here on the back to make that a little bit stronger as well. And this is just the first layer of the tray, but it's enough to like kind of get spacing where I want it to be. Now, I'm not going to have enough room to put the board here to cover these little holes. So what I did was I'm going to kind of disguise them. I filled them up with spackle, but you can still see where the holes were. And so they're the same size as the little berries on one of the plants on the sign. So I decided to kind of go with it and make it look like a brown berry. So I just used my brown paint pen, and my brown paint pen's darker than the brown berries on there, so I'm going to go ahead and update the color on them as well. It'll work well with the welcome falls in dark brown. And then make little clusters of berries up here where I can kind of make that look like it was done on purpose. So I just did a cluster kind of like they are below. Make a quick little stem, pretty easy to do. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I felt like it was a little unbalanced, and so I do add a few berries to the other side as well, and I also updated the color there of the stem on the one that was there originally. I will soften that up a little bit here in just a minute when that starts drying. And now we can go ahead and attach the second piece. I'm going to have it hang off the side just because I did on the other side and I don't want to cover up that cute little fox. So first I attach it with hot glue just like that, and leaving room at the top and the bottom for those boards that we're going to attach for a very simple tray shape for the form. And I reinforce it with my staple gun. It was a little bowed still, but by the time I get all of the wood in here, it's not going to be bowed at all. I added a few more staples just to reinforce that. And because it's really important that this all stays together, and this really ended up being very durable. Now that I have my kind of spacing set, I can cut down the top and bottom boards. So I just kind of measure that out with my saw and cut down one for the bottom. And then I'm going to cut another one down here for the top. And that was the remaining of those two pieces that we used originally. I had plenty of room. And so for my third yard stake, I cut down two more here for the very top in the length that will fit there. So now, since I had to do that in two parts, I do have to kind of stain these in two parts. So I just do that with some antique wax by Waverly. And again, I'm going to do all three sides. I notice these aren't perfectly square, so make sure that you kind of have them lined up right when you like don't stain one side like I wasn't staining one side, that make sure that everything is going to fit together perfectly here in the end. And so I did the same thing here for the ones for the bottom. I wanted to use a lot of rich, warm colors and woods. The Fantastical Forest line at Pottery Barn is there. It's a lot of like leaf patterns. It's a lot of forest animals, and it's a lot of like warm colors and like almost jewel tones for fall colors, which I really love. It's so pretty. You'll have to go check it out if you want to be inspired by them. And I add some hot glue here to the ends and put my sign in here. I'm really going almost all the way to the bottom on this, but not enough where you'll be able to see like a gap between the tray. And I went ahead and reinforced the corners with a couple of staples here on both sides. And I love using my staple gun for crafting. It really can help reinforce things when you are building something from kind of scratch like this. So this is my top piece. I'm going to attach it right here. I'm going to glue this one a little bit here on the edge and also glue it end to end here to form this. Now my corners aren't perfect, but I am going to reinforce them, and it does really solve any gaps that I might have. And I use two staples here to reinforce those corners as well. So the sign is on the bottom of the tray. I'm not going to use it as a tray. I'm going to use it as a decorative tray. So it's going to be standing up. So it's okay that it has like that welcome fall word up, and it's okay that it's like not waterproof or anything like that. Now you're not going to be able to see these, but I also reinforced the top part to make it extra strong with some more staples. Since I'm going over it with the other row of wood, it's going to hide those staples in there, but they will provide a little bit more structure. So I just hot glue on my second bottom piece like that. And that is what it looks like. Isn't that wood so pretty stained? I was really happy with how this tray turned out. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to do the same thing here at the top, hot gluing that second piece on. And then I just have my 2 side pieces left to attach. And now I have a perfect tray. I am going to do handles as well. No openings or anything there on the side. And I just attached those with hot glue as well. Now for handles, you could really use anything. You could use like drawer pulls, different things like that. I'm going to DIY some with some faux leather from the Dollar Tree. I think that's going to be really cute and go with the warm colors of this. So I have all of my pieces hot glued on, but as you can see, I do have little gaps there in the corner and I really want this to be strong. So since I have this heavy duty wood, I decided to use some nails from the Dollar Tree, and I didn't do any drilling or anything like that. I just kind of went in with the nails from that wood all the way down. I didn't have any splitting or anything from not drilling, which is great because I always hate that step. I know it's necessary sometimes, but for this, it really wasn't. And the nails don't really take away from the tray design at all, but I love how sturdy this made it. So when I nail each one in, it really gets rid of any gap that I have and really makes each corner square as well. And so I just went in from the sides with both boards, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I used kind of a fairly longer nail from the Dollar Tree. I always try to I usually always have all of their nails in stock because I do use them for crafting quite a bit. And just going ahead and adding all of the nails to reinforce this. The very last step is just going to be to add the handles to the sides. And this little DIY fall tray is going to be ready to go. But first, I do want to kind of soften the colors of the little berries that I added on there, just so it looks like it's part of the design, has multiple colors in it. I used a little bronze Sharpie from the Dollar Tree to kind of lighten those up a little bit. And then this is the leather. I'm going to use my scrap leather from the Dollar Tree here to make some handles. I'm just going to cut down a strip that is the same width as my boards there on the side. And I think I'm gonna have enough here to make 2. Yeah, that would be way too big of a handle. So what I'm gonna do is just cut it in half. And this was so easy to do. I'm gonna first kind of loop it so it sits up a little bit to form the handle. And then we're gonna use some brads that I got from the Dollar Tree to really make it look decorative. That looks really great with the leather. These come with the nails, and I think they're called thumbtacks, but I kind of call them brads. They look more like brads to me. I'm going to first use some hot glue just so I can get that shape that I want, and then I will go in with the brads to further reinforce the handle. And I just glued that right to the top, kind of estimating where the middle of the tray was. And then I just used my hammer to nail these brads right in. These are usually pretty easy to work with. Sometimes they will bend on you, but I had pretty good luck here with these. And I'm going to do one here on both sides. I love the brass color. That's going to go well with this. And this tray just turned out so, so cute. So again, hot glue and brads on this side as well, just straight across. And isn't that sign so cute? Keep an eye out for this sign at your Dollar Tree. I guess you could really do it with any kind of a rectangular sign like this, but it's one of the prettiest trays I've ever DIY'd on my channel. I really love it. I think that those yard stakes from Dollar General were a great source of wood. But if you can't find any of those, you could really always use some of the craft wood from the Dollar Tree as well and kind of make it work to whatever side your tray needs. Isn't that so cute? I love it. I love that sign. I'm so glad I picked it up. It makes a perfect fall tray. Okay, the next DIY I picked up just a sign from the Dollar Tree. It can be anything. I just needed something with an opening, and I also picked up some great fall fabrics from the Dollar Tree. Now you can use felt for this. I found these cool fabrics, so I designed my own little pattern, and we're gonna make a fun fall quail DIY. So I designed this pattern, and I scanned it in, so I will include a link to this as well if you want to recreate. And I tried to write on them what color they should be. So for the orange, I'm gonna use an orange plaid material, and that is going to be the wing of the quail. That is really going to be the only thing I'm doing with this orange plaid fabric. It's kind of a fuzzy fabric. It's really pretty. But again, if you wanted to recreate yours with just the standard color like felts from the Dollar Tree, that was my first idea. I'm going to take my template. I just cut it out of cardstock, And I've decided to double most of the things up to make them a little bit more substantial, and I can slightly stuff them as well for this display. I wanted to make a shadow box with a fall quail in there with some babies. I thought that would be really cute, a little nest. And so I just doubled up my fabric and had it back to back so I could cut out like a mirror image of each one. And I can put that together to be the wing for the quail. I keep wanting to call it a pheasant. It's quail. And I'm going to stuff it with just cotton balls. I needed some stuffing that was really small, and so I picked up some cotton balls from the Dollar Tree for crafting, and they work really well for this. I just glue the wing together, leaving open a pocket that I can stuff it. I don't want to stuff it a lot. I just want to give it a little bit of a 3D vibe, and so it's not super flat. And again, I am going to double up most of the items. I just think it made it look a little bit better in the final diorama. Now for the next part is going to be the brown part. So this is going to be part of the quail and its tail as well as a little tail feather. So again, I just cut out my little template piece. This is going to go around the head, and then I am going to cut out the tail piece, and I want to cut this out of this brown fuzzy fabric. I think this is so pretty. I kind of wish I would have done brown felt on this though. It would have been a little bit easier to cut. I was trying to get kind of an intricate design there on the neck, but it was really kind of hard to cut this in an intricate pattern because it's like that velvety material, but I was able to make it work. I just laid my pattern here on the back of the fabric, and I just used an ink pen to kind of sketch it out. And again, I'm going to be doubling that up as well, and also the tail feather. I wanted these pieces to be separate. I couldn't find a template for something that I wanted to do this, and so I had to like get out the marker and draw my own pattern. But I really love how this project turned out. And again, I will share the printable. I have it where it'll print out on 2 sheets like that, so you can make your own little pattern here to recreate. So again, I cut out 2 of the tail feather, and then I'm going to cut out 2 of this bird piece cover. This is going to cover like most of the quail, but it's also going to have like a belly that's going to be like a little bit of a different color. So this one was where it was a little bit hard to cut this because I had to cut it kind of thin here. I think felt would have been a little bit stiffer, and it would give you the same effect because this is just kind of a brown plush fabric. It's not quite as cool as the next fabric that we're going to be using, which is really cool. Now to go ahead and put this together, I'm going to go ahead and glue the tail together. Just a very short little tail feather here. Don't have a lot of room for stuffing in here, but maybe I'll work in a little tiny bit of plush there in the tail feather. And then same as the other one, I'm going to put plush sides on the outside and glue this together. This upper area here is too small to kind of stuff with anything, so I just glued that part completely shut, but I can add some stuffing when I do the rest, and just trying to add a little bit of stuffing as I go and hot glue this together. This was such a fun DIY. I really wanted to make a fall quail DIY, but I couldn't think of anything I could use from the Dollar Tree that would look anything like a quail. So we had to get creative and use Dollar Tree supplies to make our very own. So that is the brown components. And then this is going to be the things I need that are tan. And I found this tan fabric. It is also fuzzy, and it's got like little spots on it. Now, if you can't find this, you could also use like an ivory or a tan felt. I think that would look really cute too. But I love the spots, especially for a bird. I think that's really cute. This larger part here is most of the bird body. This is the mama bird, the mama quail, and then I'm also going to do babies. Now, I went ahead and designed 3, so you can do up to 3, but then I kind of remembered, I'm just making a pattern, so I really only need to cut one of these out. I can just reuse it. So these 2 parts are going to make up a baby bird. So again, I'm just laying that on the back of my tan and white spotted fabric like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut out a piece large enough to double that one up. I really love that fabric. I might use that more for some fall crafting because I've been doing some deer crafting and stuff like that. That would make perfect like fawn spots. And I just sketch out the shape of the bird. And again, I'm going to cut it out double. I'm not worrying about pinning anything. I'm just trying to, we got things to do. We got crafts to make here. So I cut out that part, and then for the baby birds, I'm going to do kind of the same thing. At first, I thought I was going to do 3 baby birds because I like to work with odd numbers. But then I started looking at the size of my box and thinking, I probably can't fit 3 baby birds, and I'm glad I didn't make 3 baby birds because they wouldn't have fit. But I did go ahead and kind of sketch them out here, leaving enough room to double everything up. And again, I'm just going to go in here and cut out 2 of everything. And it's really important to, kind of mirror them like that, fold them so they will be a mirror image of each other so they will match up perfectly when you go to put them together. The baby bird design is so easy. It's just like an 8 design or a little 2-piece snowman kind of. And then I have the other piece there that's going to be the wing. This is when I decided that 2 baby birds was probably enough. So I just cut out 2 of these, and then I'm also going to cut out the little feathers for the babies. I doubled up the little wings here, but I really only needed 1 in the end because I didn't really need to stuff that part. But for our 2 little baby birds, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to try to glue them together. And this was probably the most time-consuming project out of my new DIYs today, but you know what? It was really fun to make, and I love the finished result. So I just glue that together, leaving a tiny pocket and adding the cotton balls. The cotton balls worked great for this because it just gave them a little bit of stuffing, made them look plush, even though, I'm not doing any sewing or anything like that. So it's definitely my kind of crafting. And I am going to glue this one together and stuff him as well. Super cute. He's only going to need like an eye and a beak to finish off the baby. And again, the wings, I really don't need them to be stuffed at all because the baby birds are so small. So I'm just going to glue them on where they will kind of, just be attached by like a little tiny part here at the top. And have that go out to the side. And I'm going to do that with both of these. Isn't that fabric so cute? When I saw this fabric, I knew I had to make some kind of fall forest. And now this is going to be the mama bird. And the brown part is going to overlap some of this. So I went ahead and put this together, put a little bit of cotton in there, and glued this shut. Again, I don't want it to be super thick, but just enough to have a 3D effect. And then we can put the brown part of the bird on. It's going to fit right there where it kind of matches up here on the back side. I didn't want to do too intricate of a design for the fall quail, but I wanted a fun enough design that you're going to be able to tell what kind of bird it is here in the end. And there's a few distinguishing features of quail that will make that stand out. And then also the tail feather, I'm just going to add that separately. Hot-gluing this here so it looks like there's like feathers on top of tail feathers. And then here is that little orange plaid wing where we're going to have the little scalloped edge go down like that, and I just attached that with a little bit of hot glue as well. And our little quail are coming right along. For the black part, I'm going to cut out like a wing, a little bit of face design here for the mama bird. It also has that cool, I think they call it a top knot, which is the feather on the top of the quail head, which is a really fun distinguishing feature. So I'm going to cut this out, and I'm just using felt for this one. And this is going to be the beak. It's going to go like that and kind of go down underneath the beak a little bit. This is that cool top net feather that I was talking about. That's going to be kind of coming out of the top of its head. I'm going to cut that out of the black felt as well. And then I'm also going to do some tiny triangles for the beaks for the little baby quail. And I did put them on my little pattern, but really just for size comparison, it's really easy to cut out a little tiny triangle. I just wanted to kind of get the scale right and just cut out 2 little black triangles for the beaks for the baby birds. Then for the eyes, I decided to use like the little beaded stickers from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use one for the mama bird because it's a larger. I had some blue ones. I just painted mine black. These make a great size for an eye. And then I'm going to glue on the little beak to our quail. And then this is the little top knot feather we can have coming out of the top of its head. And it kind of curves towards the front like that. And then I'm going to glue on the little eye that we painted black. Since the baby birds are smaller, I'm going to try to make their eyes smaller just so it'll be a little bit more to scale. You could always use felt to cut out a tiny eye as well, but it's kind of hard to cut out a tiny circle in felt. I just glued on the little beaks, and I had some of these jewel border letters from the Dollar Tree, and they're just kind of like the other, but they're way smaller. So peel and stick sticker, so perfect. So I added 2 little eyes for our babies. Now let's get started on that fall shadow box. It doesn't really matter what sign you use. I wanted a square sign, and so I just picked up whatever I could find at Dollar Tree. I don't want it to say pumpkin pie on the back of it though, so I'm going to cover it with like a wood grain cheap contact paper just so the back of my project will look nice. I am fine with the sides of the sign being white. I think that will look fine. I'm just going to smooth this out and then simply use a sanding sponge. This contact paper from the Dollar Tree is so cheap, it's really easy to cut with the sandpaper, and it just gave me a perfect cut. And now the back of my project is going to look nice too, because we are going to fill the inside of it and make it into a shadow box. We're also going to be framing it out. For the back, I want it to be covered just with like mossy material. So I just used tacky glue all over. And then for the moss, I'm going to be using the brown floral moss from the Dollar Tree. It's like a little bit different than the reindeer moss. As you can see, it just kind of crumbles into pieces, which is why I added glue everywhere so I can just kind of glue this down for a fun fall background. And it's okay if you see a little bit of the brown come through. And then for greenery, I guess I'm going to use some pampas grass. I like this color. I thought it looked like something that might be a fun fall background for a quail. I'm just going to cut these down where they will fit in our little shadow box. And I think 2 of these would be fine. The orange one would probably be cute too. They have these in fall colors as well. And then I'm just going to attach them with hot glue, and we're just going to try to make a real easy background. And for that, I thought fall leaves would be perfect. So I picked up these, they kind of traditional colors. I want to switch it up and use like one of each. So there's like a red, there's an orange, we got a brown, and I think 4 of them should be enough. And I kind of like the pampas grass a little bit better. So I'm going to have that kind of be on top, I think, and then have like the fall leaves kind of nesting inside there. And again, I am going to frame that out. So the frame's going to look a little bit better here in the end. So I want to make sure to keep everything inside the box because I don't need anything to be getting in the way of the frame we're going to DIY. And now we can have our mama quail and our little baby quail here off to the side. And I want it to look like they're all sitting in a nest. So I just took some Spanish moss. I've been having trouble finding that at Dollar Tree. So I've been having to get that at Walmart lately. And I just took a little bit to make a nest size shape. And I'm also going to be adding rope to that to really kind of give it that fun nest-like feel. I just take a scrap piece of Dollar Tree rope, and then I unwind it into individual little strings here where I can add that here to the front. So it's just another fun element. It looks like something that a bird would make a nest out of. And I'm just going to glue the little pieces of string to the Spanish moss and have it kind of curve up a little bit there on the sides. And I haven't attached my quail yet. I want to get, the background and everything in the right place so I know exactly where to place these. So I'm really glad I didn't do 3. As you can see, there's no way I'm going to be able to fit 3 little babies here. I want them to be like facing the mama quail. And so I just attached them with hot glue. And it's just a very 3D diorama shadow box. It turned out so cool. And then we can have like the mama quail like right here, front and center. And we're going to also add some fun fall little touches to this as well. I glued mama down as well. Now for the frame, I'm going to use some of this camping kindling wood. I got this at Dollar General for only $1, and I thought it'd be fun for crafting, and this worked out really well. It stained beautifully too. It's the perfect length, so I will have to cut 2 down to make it fit the very front of this shadow box design. And of course, I want to give it a quick stain. I just used some antique wax by Waverly, and I went ahead and stained 3 sides of all of them. And it stained beautiful. It was very rustic looking. And I knew this would come in handy for crafting. This is one of the reasons why I told you guys to pick some of this up. I know several of you guys saw it and had the same idea, so that's always fun. I just use a paper towel to wipe off the excess stain, and then we can start putting this together. It is the exact same length as a sign. I'm just going to glue this here to the edge, kind of lining up the outside. And I'm going to do that top to bottom on both sides. And then for the other pieces, we can cut those down to fit in between. Doesn't that look so cool? It's a really cool wood grain on there. I'm just going to mark exactly how big I want these to be. Take these to my saw and cut these down. And what a quick, easy way to do a frame for a shadow box. And it really gives you that like shadow box feel because it's all boxed in. But this looks way better than the edges of the sign did before. And I just attached all the pieces with hot glue. Now I decided I wanted the mama quail sticking out a little bit more 3D. So I just added a little mini jenga block behind her just to finish that off and make her stick out a little bit more. And then I added a Dollar Tree foam pumpkin in green, one of the clip ones. I just removed the clip, attached that with hot glue. And then I thought maybe a couple of the little acorns from the Dollar Tree would be cute in there. This dark brown color I think looks nice. So I'm just going to glue a couple of those around the area, but we've already got a lot going on, so I think that is enough decor for this little quail shadow box, but I really love how it turned out. I think it's really cute. What do you guys think about our little fall quail shadow box diorama? I really kind of stepped outside my comfort zone with this and really experimented, but I really love the results. I think it's so whimsical and fun. And if you recreate this DIY, please show me and let me know. I'd love to see it. You'll have to post it in our Facebook group because I would love to see what you come up with. Now for this DIY, we're going to be making a fall candle. I picked up a candle holder and a base from the Dollar Tree and just a candle. This is the candle holder that I'm going to use. What I want to do is I want to do a sticks and moss theme on this and make it really look like something out of the forest. So the first thing I did was just remove the tag here from the bottom of this and clean this up, and I'm going to be attaching sticks. I actually went out into the yard, found a bunch of sticks that were about the same diameter. So we always love our free crafting supplies. I'm going to use my miter scissors to cut these down into individual pieces. I'm going to have the sticks wrap all the way around the candle, being a little bit smaller in front, but most of them are going to be about the same length. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these pieces out. I don't want any kind of branches coming out of the side. Those would get in the way. So I kind of pop those off when I come to that on some of these sticks. And I am just going to kind of guess how much I need. I do have to add a few more here later. So I was definitely out in my yard looking for sticks for these DIYs, but I really love how it turned out. It really adds to the forest vibe. Now to start building it, I'm going to attach them along the bottom here. I'm also going to be tying them on with a little twine. But first I'm going to add hot glue. So I'm going to start laying them out on the hot glue and just kind of sitting them side by side. If there's a gap in between them, I don't really care because I am going to go back and fill up any gaps with some reindeer moss. So it's going to kind of add to it. I tried to do them in groups if I could before my hot glue would start to set up. And then I'm also going to be adding a little extra hot glue here on top to help glue those on since I'm only really gluing them on towards the bottom. And again, I'm also going to be tying them on, so I think they will definitely stay in place. I don't want any of my sticks to be too long because I'm going to be using a real candle, and I don't want them to anything that could catch on fire. And I am just going to continue my way around the candle. Kind of the more rustic, the better. Some of these, have like a little bit of lichens and moss growing on them, and I think that looks really cute. I got about this far when I realized that it definitely needed more, but I did have some more sticks here that I think we can make work. And I also want to do some shorter ones because I want you to be able to see the candle in the front a little bit. So I'm going to make those sticks a little bit shorter. And so I just cut out more here. And then I'm just going to continue gluing these around. And again, we're not only adding sticks, we're also going to be adding moss to this and also mushrooms for our fall forest theme. I love that. These are some of the ones I cut down a little smaller here for the front. And everything is glued on. I'm going to add an extra row of hot glue here on top. And I'm also going to be adding twine in that area. So that's why I didn't really care if you could see any hot glue here. And I'm going to go ahead and start the twine in some of that hot glue that hasn't set up yet and glue this around here to get us started. And then I'm going to simply wrap it. The twine is definitely going to go with that forest vibe. And I just wrap it around several times until you can't really see any of the glue. And I think that that looks pretty good right about there. Just going to glue down the very end of it. And again, I'm going to have like the shorter part in the middle. So this is going to be the front of it. And then I'm going to use some reindeer moss to kind of fill in the gaps. My theme for this was definitely like just sticks and moss. So anywhere where there is like a gap at all between these, I'm going to try to work in a little bit of that reindeer moss just by pulling it apart into smaller pieces and kind of gluing it down in between the space between the logs. And I think this really gives it such a fun vibe. It's so rustic, perfect for fall. Adding the mushrooms to it too, I think really kind of gives it the fall vibe. And it just makes me want to go to a forest. For spring break, my son and I went to Seattle and Vancouver, and we stayed at an Airbnb in Seattle, like near Seattle, and our yard was nothing but moss. The trees were completely covered in moss. And it was like one of the prettiest things I've ever seen. It was just gorgeous out there. I love the Pacific Northwest. And I am just going to glue right there. I added a lot more moss on the front than I'm really going to be adding other places because I kind of took my time and added it just in between the cracks where you could still see the sticks and stuff like that. And then once I get that part all covered, I do want to still have moss on the back because that would make it make more sense. But I kind of just did some larger bundles and kind of worked that in. Nothing too crazy, just some here around the base because depending on where you put it, whether you can see back here or not, but I definitely didn't want to leave the back out. So I did add some here and there. Once I get this all covered with moss, then I'm also going to be decorating that glass candle tray. I wanted to add that so I could kind of extend the forest theme a little bit out and not just have the candle. But if you wanted to stop at this point, you could. I have a white candle from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the packaging and put this right inside. And this is what it looks like so far. Then for the base, I'm just going to use a little hot glue. I know glass to glass, you can use a stronger glue, but I think this is going to be fine. I just glue that right there in the center of, is this like a candle tray maybe? I don't really know what to call it. But I'm going to add some more moss, but this time I'm going to switch it up to some of the floral moss from the Dollar Tree. And I am just going to hot glue that down. I think this is going to be a great base for our mushrooms. I thought about adding some fall leaves to this DIY as well, but Dollar Tree really doesn't have any fall leaves that are very small. So I think mushrooms are going to be the ticket. Another fall DIY I've done this year was I cut down my own tiny fall leaves using painted paper bags using my Cricut machine. That is a fun option. It did take a while to cut though. For the mushrooms, I'm going to use 6 of the mushrooms, the wood mushrooms, 3 of each kind. And I'm going to do these in white acrylic paint here on the stem and the underside of the mushroom. And then we're going to be painting these in some fun fall colors as well. I was thinking maroon and brown for these mushrooms, and I just kind of want to scatter them around in the yard. So I'm going to use my paint pens. My favorite paint pens are these Posca paint pens. I usually get these on Amazon. They do run some good deals. I do have them listed in my Amazon shop below. I love them. I've tried so many different kinds of paint pens and nothing works quite like these do. They are really, really good paint pens and they come in some really great colors too. I really love this color for fall. It's like a maroon color, perfect for fall. I'm going to do 3 in maroon and 3 in brown. But as you can see, I'm kind of mixing up the sizes and with the colors, not necessarily doing all of the same ones in the same color. And just painting these brown. And I'm going to go in and do some white little polka dots on these as well to finish off these little mushrooms. So cute. Once I get those painted and dry, I'm just going to go in with my white paint pen and do little polka dots all over. Super easy. Other fall things you could add to your candle are like little acorns would be cute too. If you could find some tiny pine cones, maybe. I noticed that they don't really put the pine cones out at Dollar Tree until winter, at least at my stores. And I have trouble finding them in my area. So I might need to go through my winter Christmas stash to be able to get some more pine cones. The only ones I could find were the ones on the fall floral, like bundles with flowers and other things like that. And I am going to just give all of these polka dots all over. I think that's perfect. Now to attach them, I'm just going to glue the base and kind of the side of them to the moss, and try to glue the base down to that glass tray down below. And I want them to be kind of sitting at angles and kind of growing randomly in our little forest here. And this DIY was so easy. It didn't really take that many supplies. I love being able to craft with just sticks from the yard, and they really added such a fun rustic touch to this. This is how it turned out, our little mossy stick candle, perfect for fall. This is what it looks like lit up. I think using the real sticks like that just added so much, especially combined with that Dollar Tree reindeer moss. So pretty, and all of the cute little mushrooms down below. My husband said I had a mushroom village going on in here. I love it. And this is what it looks like lit up at night. I'm glad I decided to make the little twigs shorter there in the front so you can kind of see the candle inside a little bit. But you can still see the higher sticks there around the perimeter of the candle as well. And again, this is what it looks like during the day, our fall candle. And this is what it looks like at night. It has a really cool light pattern, as you can see, with all of those sticks stuck to the side. Now, this is a new item this year, these little shelf sitters. This one is a fox, so I thought this would be perfect for this theme. It's even got the plaid, which is very prevalent in the Pottery Barn line, so I think that will work well. I'm just going to simply cut the tags off this cute little guy, and what I want to do is design an entire backdrop for him. You know those like backdrops where you take your family pictures at the pumpkin patch? I wanted to do something similar to that for him. So I'm going to use some Dollar Tree craft wood, one of their hay bales from the Dollar Tree, and some of the wooden rulers. I want it to look almost like a pallet wood back, and I want it to be fairly large. So I think these rulers are going to work well. I don't think they've increased the price. I bought rulers today at Dollar Tree, and I think they still said $1.25 for school supplies. I think. I hope. But you get two in a package. They're a great source of wood. You could also use paint stir sticks for this if you have some of those. And I know some of you guys say you get this from free at the hardware store, but my hardware stores have not given those away for free for a long time. But I'm going to cut the little holes off the end because that will be the perfect length for the craft wood size, and I don't like those. The other thing I do is just peel the stickers off of all of the rulers. I want this to be a nice tall like photo backdrop. And then I also have two wood rulers for the structure of it. So I'm going to cut them separately. I just stacked all of those, went to my saw and cut those all down at once. And then I'm going to just go cut the circles off of these just because I don't want to see those. Now this is the Dollar Tree craftwood piece. It kind of has the rough bottom. This one needed a little bit of a sanding. I'm going to use the smooth side on top for our little fall display. And I really love how this turned out. So I do want rich, warm colors, so I'm going to stain everything with some Antique Wax by Waverly. You're not going to be able to see a lot of this bottom section, but I went ahead and stained the entire thing for any areas that you might be able to see through. And this craft wood stained beautiful. The only kind of challenging parts are like the ends where it's kind of rough, and there was like a little bit of splitting there on the sides where it had been cut. So I did go in there with a brush to try to stain those to make that a little bit less noticeable. And then I'm also going to stain the wooden rulers the same color with the Antique Wax by Waverly. And these are going to be like pallet boards all the way up the back of the structure. I just did 2 at a time and wiped off the excess so I can get that before it soaks in too much. And I'm going to do that on all 6 of these. I did a total of 6, so 3 packages for height, but then another package for the structure. I'm going to have 2 boards going straight up to hold all of the rulers in place. And as you can see, the wood rulers from the Dollar Tree stain beautifully as well. And I never use real stain because Antique Wax by Waverly for crafting is just so much faster. I'm going to do the same thing here with the structure pieces. I'm just going to be staining one side. You could stain both if you want the back of yours to be really pretty as well. And then I'm going to kind of lay them out with spacing like I like. I'm not really measuring it. I'm just kind of estimating what I want this to look like. And then I'm going to have these 2 structure pieces. So I want all the stained parts to be visible there from the front. And they're pretty thin, so I'm going to use hot glue. You probably shouldn't do it like that because I kind of forgot that I had such spacing there, and I did have to clean up some hot glue from that. You might want to add hot glue to each ruler. And I just add these to the back with the longer end sticking out to the right. And I just cleaned up on the extra hot glue I had there in between the rulers just with my heat gun. And now for the back, I want to decorate it a little bit before we start putting it together. For a little pennant banner, a little mini pennant banner, I thought this plaid would be great. This is a napkin from the Dollar Tree. It's pretty thin, so I'm just going to cut the end where it's kind of crimped at the side so that will keep it together, but I can still keep both layers of the napkin on there so it's not so thin. And I'm just simply cutting out triangles. I want the top to be attached to each other, so I am only cutting them from that left side and just cutting out little triangles to make a little mini pennant banner to hang on the back of this backdrop. I thought that'd be really cute, and the plaid goes perfectly. So I just knotted some twine and put it here on one side. I'm going to have the fox sitting over on the right side of this display, so I want it to be a little bit higher over here and kind of droop across, and I just added the twine first. And then I'm going to add the little mini pennant banners to that. You could also always do this with fabric, ribbon, whatever you can find that is in a print that you like. But this was really easy to do with the napkin. So as you can see, I'm just adding a little tiny bit of hot glue to the twine and adding all of our little plaid mini pennants all the way up here to the top. I think that is so cute. The other thing I wanted to try to DIY is fall leaves. So I'm going to use a paper bag from the Dollar Tree and cut off a piece of it. And I wanted to see if I could make some tiny leaves because they don't have any miniature fall leaves at the Dollar Tree. So I wanted to see if I could DIY some. I painted my paper bag first in a pumpkin orange to really kind of make it have a fun fall color before I cut it. And this worked, but I think that my maple leaf design might have been a little too intricate because it was taking forever to cut it, but I will include the SVG if you want to try it. Just remember it's going to take a while to cut. I put mine on here on a mat, and I used laser paper, I think was the setting that I used on my printer for because it was a pretty thin bag. While that's cutting, it did take forever. I'm going to also add a word. I'm going to use one of the wood fall words from the Dollar Tree, the one that says hello fall. And I just paint that a bright orange for fall as well, just using a little sponge brush. I don't want to get too much dripping down there in between the letters. And this is a great way to add a fall word without using your Cricut to cut out any vinyl or anything like that. And the wood provides another fun texture to this. This DIY turned out so cute. I am still cutting those leaves. Those leaves have been cutting for a while. I was going to do a whole sheet of them, but I ended up not cutting. I just cut enough for this project. I might have to go back after it. Now to put it together, I use my staple gun here to staple my rulers to that craft wood. It's thick enough to do that without having to use any hot glue, and I thought that the staples would be a little stronger. You could also use nails for that as well. That would help keep it really strong. And we have the beginning of our little photo backdrop for fall. Now, I was thinking about using moss down here at the bottom, but I didn't really want the bright green of the reindeer moss. So I'm going to use the floral moss from the Dollar Tree that is more brown. It is like a falls apart. So what I did was I used tacky glue and I put a thick layer of tacky glue all over the bottom of our little display here so I can glue down all of the individual pieces. I think that any kind of moss or Spanish moss would look really good down there. Or you could just open up one of these hay bales and put hay down there as well. I thought that this would be a little less messy than the hay. And I'm going to sit my hay bale to the side here. I do want to glue everything down so everything stays into place. I glued my Dollar Tree little hay bale at an angle. And then I'm going to use some of the gourds from the Dollar Tree and some pumpkins to make it look like a pumpkin patch. The only thing about this gourd kit from the Dollar Tree is they're not painted great. So I went over mine with some acrylic paint just to update them. And really, I want to add more than one color to them as well. I painted this gourd leafy green. I painted this pumpkin more of a red color. And I'm just going to update the colors on all of these. This gourd, I want to make it a little darker. So I went over it first with a thin coat of brown paint. And I don't really like the speckle pattern that they have on them. I have painted that orange that you see over there to the left. That was a Dollar Tree pumpkin. I've painted that before with some orange paint. And those small pumpkins that you see there are actually from the Target Dollar Spot. And those are pretty nice. They really don't need to be repainted. But I had plenty of time to paint gourds while those leaves were cutting. I think I made too intricate of a leaf. And then I'm cutting it too small. The fall leaves I'm cutting are 1 inch is the widest part of them. And so they are little miniature fall leaves, but I'm so glad I made them because they're so cute. Now I did distress my red pumpkin with a little orange. I distressed the green gourd with a little brown. This way I can kind of make everything two-tone. Now here are the fall leaves. I only got through 1 row really. And then I was like, I really need those fall leaves. It worked though, painting the little paper bag like that. So cute. I also thought if I don't add some fairy garden lights to this, I'm going to have you guys saying, I would have added lights to that. Especially on Facebook, I get that a lot. So I beat you guys to it. I added some fairy garden lights that I got at Dollar Tree today. I added 2 AA batteries, and these are just white twinkle lights, and I think they'll look really cute there on the palette backdrop. I'm going to kind of hide this behind the hay bale where you won't be able to see it, but where I'll be able to easily turn it on and off. And I can still get to the batteries there. I just added a little dot of hot glue just to make sure it doesn't fall over. And then I'm going to string this through our little palette banner. And I was just wrapping it around, not really in a pattern, but I really wanted the lights to be on the front and not on the back of this display. So I kind of made it work. And I want to go up this side and then kind of go down the other side where all 10 lights are pretty evenly dispersed. Really no rhyme or reason to my pattern, but I think it turned out pretty good. I did have to kind of glue the last little light in place just to make sure that it stays there. I just used a very thin dot of hot glue there and attached that to it. And now we can add these cute little fall leaves that we cut from paper bags from Dollar Tree. I will try to maybe make a less intricate pattern because, oh man, I couldn't believe how slow they were cutting. They cut out beautifully though. Look at that shape. So I guess they're worth it. I'm just not used to my Cricut taking that much time for things. I'm just using a tiny dot of hot glue and scattering those all over the fall backdrop like falling fall leaves. It'd be really cute too to do these maybe in different colors and different shapes of fall leaves. And now we can start putting together our little pumpkin patch. I'm going to use some of the larger items first and kind of make this work. I love the variety in color. I love that it's not all just orange. The reds and the greens and the browns add to it as well. And I like the fact that there's gourds as well as pumpkins like you would see at the pumpkin patch. And I thought I needed a few more, so I have a few more of these little pumpkins from Target Dollar Spot. I added some of those to finish it off. I think those are so pretty. And here's a little fox, the star and the inspiration of the show. I am going to glue him in place so he doesn't fall off. His little hay bale and his little wood bead legs like dangle down in front. And the hay bale is just the perfect size for him. And I absolutely love how this turned out. Look at this little Hello Fall backdrop. It looks just like a little fox taking his photo at a little photo place in the pumpkin patch, a little photo backdrop. And this is what it looks like with all of the twinkle lights lit up. I think that really adds to it. I'm really glad that I decided to add that. And all the fun textures and little details of this project make this extra special. For this fall DIY, we're going to make a little forest throne for this cute little raccoon I found from the Dollar Tree. So I just got a little rectangular wood plaque sign from the Dollar Tree. It doesn't really have to necessarily be this one, but I think this is going to work perfectly if I cut it in half. So I'm just going to take this to my saw and cut it pretty much in half and a little bit longer on one side maybe. And then I'm just going to attach these together. This is going to be the structure for the seat of our little forest throne for this little raccoon. This DIY turned out so cute. I'm going to be using sticks from my yard for this one. So that helps with the craft materials. I just attached that with hot glue, just like that, right to itself. And it doesn't matter that it has the beveled edges because we're going to be covering this seat with moss later on in the project. I want 2 of the sticks to be longer, and that's going to be like the back and the back legs of the chair. And it's going to be a throne, so I want them to be a little taller than the chair as well. So I cut out 2 sticks here for the sides, the back, and then I'm going to need 2 legs for the front. So I'm going to need those to be shorter. So I go ahead and cut those down to size as well. And the more character you can get on your sticks, like the fact that these look kind of mossy, I love that. I think it's really going to add to the DIY. I'm also going to be needing some more sticks for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this little piece off here. It's about the same diameter as the sticks we used for everything else. Now we need to start putting this together. At first I was thinking I kind of wanted to attach them to the sides of it like that, but I wasn't really thinking that for a chair. I really wanted all of my 4 legs to kind of line up. So I started by hot gluing it to the side like that. And then I realized I can't really have the front leg in front of that because I need to attach the front leg to the actual wood slice, and it doesn't quite go out that far. So I decided to pop that off and actually move it to the back. So no harm done. You're not going to be able to see this anyway once I add moss to this, but I did go ahead and kind of clean it up a little bit here. I'm just going to get rid of some of that excess hot glue, and then I'm going to glue the stick to the very back of it. That's going to work much better structurally, like right about here where I still have it being taller than the chair. So I attach it to the back of the wooden plaque there, just using hot glue. And where my front legs will be about the same length too. Just kind of measuring everything and lining it up. And I'm going to do the same thing here on the other side. So this is going to be the back of our little forest throne. I want it to look like a big chair for this guy. Something really fun. When we were just in Canada for summer vacation, we went to Park Omega in Quebec. And it is a giant wildlife, like drive-through park. It was amazing. They had so many cool animals, but they had a cool little house built for the raccoons there. They were super cute. Seeing the elk and the moose and stuff like that was absolutely amazing. We really enjoyed those, and we enjoyed the bears and wolves and different animals they had there. It was so much fun. I just glued the little front legs here on the front underneath the wood base. And I made sure that it was going to be pretty level. To add a little structure to it, I'm going to add little cross piece here at the bottom, like you see like at the bottom of a chair, especially a large chair like this, with just some of my extra wood pieces. Just using hot glue to attach that here on both sides. And I am going to wrap the little joints too. It's going to provide a nice rustic touch, and it'll help keep everything sturdy since I'm only using hot glue on this. And so I'm going to need another piece here for the other side, about the same length. And I kind of had a chopped up piece of wood for that one, but I made it work. I'm going to get rid of this little stem right here because that's going to get in the way. And I think that this will work if I cut this stem off here and make it the perfect length. And my miter scissors worked great for this. I got those on Amazon. I have those linked in my Amazon shop. They work great for like the little jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree, the wood dowels, and for sticks like this from your yard. As long as your wood's not too fat, it's going to work pretty well in that. Then for the tying it with the twine, I just start there with a little hot glue and add the twine. I'm going to wrap it around several times each way, just kind of crisscrossing in like an X pattern. It's going to add to the design, but I think it's also going to help make it a little bit more stable too and make my seams look a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here on the other side. Just kind of feeding that through, wrapping it around, and then crisscrossing to the other side to tie that off. Now, I left the wood, just raw wood, on the chair because I'm going to be covering that part of the little throne with moss. I did realize though that it might stand out a little bit if you can kind of see between some of the moss. So I am going to go in and stain that part of the chair as well to kind of make it blend in a little bit more with the darker woods that we used from the sticks. And I just did the crisscross with the twine on this side as well, tying that down. And I'm not going to do like this little support piece on the front and the back. I think just on the side here. It's going to add a fun element, but again, I think it's going to make it a little bit more structurally sound. I love making little miniature projects like this. They're so fun. And we have our chair constructed. It's looking pretty cute. It's starting to look like a chair. Now, I had this extra piece because there's going to need to be like arms on the chair. So I want to kind of see if my little raccoon's going to be able to fit. I think it's going to work perfectly. I'm going to cut this about the same length as the seat. And I'm going to need 2 of these sticks, 1 for each side. And again, I just cut those down with my miter. Scissors. These are a little bit thick. I was kind of pushing it with this, but I made it work. And then I have 2 of the smaller twigs that I'm going to use for like little support beams. They don't need to be very tall. I just want to make sure that they're about the same height. And those are going to go underneath the armrest right about here to finish off the structure of the chair. I just attach those with hot glue. 1 on each corner there. I kind of have that bevel, so I kind of work on the inside of that. And then I'm going to make sure these are the same exact length. I think they are now. And then kind of clean them up a little bit there. I think that's going to work. And I'm just going to attach them with hot glue here on the back and a little hot glue on the little support piece and glue those right on there. I thought about using driftwood for this because the only trees in my yard are palm trees, but my neighbors do have a big tree that often drops branches into the very back of our yard. So I had to go out there hunting for sticks, and luckily there were some out there. So this is what the chair looks like so far, a little forest throne. Now it's time to decorate it with moss. But remember, I was kind of worried about that raw wood on there. So I do go in and give it a quick stain with some antique wax. Nothing crazy. I'm just going to go over it once. And I really like to hot glue all of my wood items together before I stain it because I really want that hot glue to adhere as well as possible. And I find that it does better like on raw wood. And I'm just going to go all over the front, the back, the inside, the outside, even the bottom of the chair, just giving it that very quick stain with that, just in case you can see any of this in between the moss. I think that looks a lot better. Kind of goes with the color scheme a lot more of our branches that we use to construct the legs. Now, I wanted the back legs to be super high like that to kind of make it look like a throne. We're going to be capping that off as well to try to make this look as royal as possible for our little star of the show. You could do this for any of the little fall animals from the Dollar Tree, but I'm going to be using the raccoon. So I put hot glue all over the base here of the seat. I'm going to add a little bit of the reindeer moss behind him, and then I'm going to glue him down so he stays put here in his little throne. And then I'm just going to kind of piece together, adding the reindeer moss all around him. Other things you could use is the floral moss from the Dollar Tree, or even like Spanish moss, which I don't know. The moss at Dollar Tree is kind of hit or miss. I haven't been able to find Spanish moss there in a while. I've been having to get it at Walmart. And I add a little bit here around the front as well. I just want the entire chair itself to look like it is made out of moss, with everything else looking like it is made out of twig. So I go here on the side of the chair, on the back of the chair behind him, and I'm just trying to kind of rip the reindeer moss into smaller pieces so it kind of sits flat against the chair. I don't want it to be too thick. Sometimes they can kind of be in big groups of it, but you can thin it down like that just by kind of tearing it into smaller pieces. I'm going to go right here along the top. I'm not necessarily going to do the back because I don't think you'll be able to see it back there. And then I just kind of pull off any excess pieces that kind of take away from the shape of the seat. I don't want too much of it sticking out, but I also want to fill in any gaps like that you might be able to see. For the caps, I'm going to use acorn caps. I'm using the acorns from the Dollar Tree, and one of them already had the cap had fallen off of it. I'm just going to use a little bit of heat to get the cap off of a second one here. And I thought these would be the perfect little finales here for the top of the throne. Little acorn caps, perfect for the fall vibe. I just attached them with hot glue, one onto each stick here. And our little forest throne is really coming together. I think it's so cute. I do want to kind of cover the little joint that I made here on the armrest. I kind of forgot to do that like I did below with the brace, and you can kind of see a little bit of the gap. So I thought this would make it stronger too. So just like before, I'm going to kind of crisscross wrap this around, attaching it with hot glue. And it really adds to the construction of our little chair. It makes it look really cute too, I think. So I went ahead and cut a piece and did that for both sides like that. And really all of the joints I have this like twine. I think that kind of made a difference. I like it. And again, just kind of wrapping that around, crisscrossing it, kind of making this work here and covering up the seam. Especially on this side, I noticed a little bit of a gap where my branch wasn't cut like super smooth. I don't have a lot of extra room there. It's kind of perfectly sized for this little raccoon, but I think most of the animals from the Dollar Tree are about the same size. The squirrel might not fit because, you're going to have that bigger tail, but he's holding a little pine cone. I think he's super cute. Now to finish it off, I thought a fall leaf for the back of his little forest throne would be perfect. I'm going to use one of the leather leaves from the Dollar Tree in this like orangey brown color and just hot glue that to the back of our chair. And that is the final piece to our little fall forest throne. I think it's so cute and whimsical. Here it is, our little raccoon with his little forest throne. Isn't that so cute? I love raccoons. They're such a fun animal. My son's campus they have so many raccoons. And in the spring, they have the little babies. They are so cute. They will run up the back of the tree and they'll all poke their head out the side and look at you. But my son gets a real kick out of them. They're always down washing their hands or their food or whatever. They're such fun animals. Now, for the next DIY, I wanted to make a fun fall tray. I found this little tray piece from the Dollar Tree. I don't know why it doesn't have any feet though. It's really cute though. It's beaded. And I'm going to add some feet just using some of the round wood beads. They're similar in color. They're a little bit shinier and darker. I think 4 will be plenty. I'm just going to glue those onto the bottom of this beaded tray. But I thought this was a fun find. I found this like in the home decor section with like the framed artwork and stuff like that. And I just glued these all on with hot glue. I wanted to do a fun fall tray with like a mushroom theme. Now, I don't like the brown all being the same color, so I decided to add a little distressing with mine. I used this Beachcombers beige, I think this is called, just a tannish color, and I distressed all of the little wood half beads that are on there, and I also distressed the tray, and then I'm going to distress the little feet that we added to it. I'm really kind of surprised they didn't put feet on it because it looks just like a tray, but it really needs little feet, don't you think? So I just went ahead and distressed it. Distressing the glossy little wood beads here for the feet actually made them not so glossy anymore. Then I'm going to add one of these wood look pumpkins. They look like wood, but they're actually like a ceramic material. And some of the floral moss from the Dollar Tree for our tray. Check out the mushrooms this year from the Dollar Tree. They're so cute. This is kind of like a honey color velvet material on there. They had all different colors, and I love the changes to these this year. I think they look really cool. I love the stems. I want them to be all different heights, so I'm gonna glue one here just directly to my tray and kind of lean it off to the side, like mushrooms don't always grow super straight. And then I'm gonna kind of do like a little tiered effect using some of the wood slice ornaments from the Dollar Tree. I'm gonna start here with my largest one and glue that to my tray. And I kind of want to stair step that up a little bit so I can have different heights to glue the mushrooms on to make the mushrooms look like different sizes. So they're not just straight across. So I glued a second one on, kind of tiering it like steps. And then I had a smaller one too. So I added that as well. And I'm going to glue one of the mushrooms way up here, kind of leaning that as well. And then I can glue this one on like the second shelf and kind of have that going out its own direction as well. And I love that look. It kind of gives you that like kind of a bracket fungi look as well with the mushrooms. And then I added some Spanish moss, just a little bit here and there for the tray. And then a few fall items like one of the little cotton pieces from the Dollar Tree. And I actually had an acorn that one of my sweet viewers sent me some acorns. And I am going to add that as well. I'm going to finish it off with a little bit more floral moss. I really think that adds to the feel of this. I didn't really have any fall animals that were quite small enough to hide in here, but if I did, I probably would have totally snuck one in. But I really love how this turned out. It's really cute and whimsical. It definitely goes with the fall forest vibes, and I love the color on the mushrooms. I think they're so pretty. It definitely reminds me of something you would see like in a fall forest. And I think I've made some of these velvet mushrooms with the old design, but I really love the new materials they're using on these this year. And I think I saw them in like 5 different colors. So you can kind of make yours whatever colors you like. But I think that the brown looks really nice for the forest theme. For this DIY, we're going to make a pumpkin fairy garden house. We're going to use a Dollar Tree pumpkin. I chose one of the taller ones that are like, what, $1.50 now. I just went ahead and removed the stem because I do want to paint that. And what I want to do is use fairy garden items to make this into a little fairy garden house. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this little pumpkin stem a little bit just because it's distressed with gold and I want it to look more like a regular pumpkin stem. So I'm going to be using like tan colors like this beachcombers beige. Now for the pumpkin itself, I'm going to use the little fairy garden door from the Dollar Tree and the fairy garden windows. I couldn't find a matching set at my store because they kind of just have leftover stuff right now from the fairy garden section. But I love the windows. I think they're perfect for fall. So let's paint the door to match. It has like a wood frame around the windows. So let's make this look like wood too instead of pink. I first go over it with just my brown paint pen here on the pink top of this entryway. Like this entire thing is not the door. The door is the little pink door that you see there. But I love these little doors. They have the larger ones too that you could use if you had like a real pumpkin, which Florida doesn't really get our pumpkins until later. I was trying to find a real one for you guys. I could not find one anywhere yet. They certainly don't last long in our temperatures here in Florida. But I painted the door brown too because it was pink before. And I'm just going to kind of update the colors on this. I want to try to make it coordinate with those windows because I think the windows are perfect. The mushrooms for fall, I love that for the fall theme. But just to try to make this look like wood too. So I went over it with brown. I'm just using a brush to touch up some of the areas I couldn't get to with my paint pen. And I'm also going to do like this little landing here too. And I think they have this door in a couple different styles. They probably have one that matches the windows perfectly. And then I went over it with some beachcomber beige. I'm going to kind of distress that. I want to add different colors of brown to it until I kind of get a wood look was my plan with that. So I just went over this little archway here with that too, kind of wiping off the excess, letting a little bit of the brown come through. And then I also added another color of brown. I think this is burnt umber. And that's closer to the wood look that I was going for. But the paint pen did come in handy because it covered up all of that bright pink too. So I do the same treatment here on the door, distressing it with tan and a little bit of brown. I'm going to leave the little blue window on there. I think that's fine. And then I'm going to use some of that same brown color to add to the windows, just so it is the same color of brown to make them match a little bit. But I love the moss on there and I love the mushrooms on these. Now, this isn't a very big pumpkin. I noticed the larger pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. I thought that in the Dollar Tree Plus were a little overpriced for the size of them, so I wanted to try to see if I could do this with one of the $1.50 pumpkins. I updated the colors here on the flowers to have them be the same maroon color that the mushrooms are, and then I also updated the colors of the leaves here to a more of a mossy color that will match some moss that was on the windows. And I think they coordinate a lot better right now. So let's go ahead and put this together. I need to carve like a small opening here. So I kind of sketch that out with a Sharpie of where I'm going to need to start cutting. And I go in with a razor blade. And this kind of has like a skin on it that you can peel off, and then it's got just styrofoam underneath of it. So it's really easy to kind of hollow this out, just kind of grab it and peel off the styrofoam. And I don't want to cut too much. I want it to be pretty snug in there. So I kind of was conservative with the first cut, and then I can just go in and carve the styrofoam up a little bit more until I have a little recess here where I can put that door. I love crafting like fairy gardens and stuff for spring. I think this is my first one for fall. I really love the idea of doing a fairy garden in a pumpkin. This would be really cute for outdoor as well. I'm going to make mine for an indoor decoration, and I'm going to be DIYing a tray to display it as well. I think that's going to work. So now let's go ahead and do the windows too. I want them to be pretty close to the front so that you can see them. So kind of on the side of the house, I just sketch out the circle size of the windows. And just like I did with the door, I'm going to cut. These were actually a little bit simpler because you just cut a circle, pop off the skin, and just pop out some of the styrofoam there. And it's pretty easy to get it to the right size. On the door part, I feel like I might have taken a little bit too much styrofoam out at the base because the door I'm gonna want it to be straight, even though the pumpkin kind of slightly goes back a little. So I did have to fill that in a little bit. You'll see. Now here is the window for the other side. I'm just gonna do it on the other side of the house. Again, I want you to be able to see it. So I'm doing it fairly close to the doorway, and I just sketched that out and cut that out with my razor blade. I think this would be really fun to do with a real pumpkin as well. If any of you guys do this DIY, be sure to share it with me over on my Facebook group. I would love to see it. So I have everything carved out. We can go ahead and start putting this together. I use a little hot glue here inside the styrofoam and add my window. You want it to look like it is part of the pumpkin. The pumpkin is going to be the little house. And I do the same thing here on the other window, just attaching it with hot glue. Pretty easy to do. I love the fact that the pumpkin's just the traditional orange color. I'm going to leave it like that. And this is the area I may have removed too much because I noticed there's a little gap there. I just filled mine in with a little bit of spackling to try to fix that issue and gave it a quick dry. Then I'm going to add hot glue here in the doorway and add our door. If I hadn't carved that part out there, it probably would have been a perfect fit. I wasn't really thinking about how the door kind of needed to sit flat against the ground. And so that kind of impacted that. So any areas where you can see anything like here with the spackling, I just went in with a little orange paint to paint that to kind of make it look even like carved a little bit like the inside of a pumpkin. And I have a little area over here where you can see a little bit of the styrofoam. I don't want to be able to see any of the styrofoam here with our little fairy garden house. Now for the pumpkin stem, I am going to add that like right about there. I think that looks really good. I'm going to hot glue that to make sure it stays in. Really cute so far. Here is a little preview of our little pumpkin fairy garden. Now I want to DIY a tray for this. I'm going to use one of these trays from the Dollar Tree. These are really cute. I don't know why they don't put feet on them though. So I'm going to do some little legs with some of the wood stems from the Dollar Tree. These are kind of some of the chunkier ones, but I found 4 that were the same height. And I'm just going to hot glue those on to the bottom. Other things you can use for legs are like the little Christmas trees that they have every year. There's lots of little wooden items and wood beads and stuff like that that make great feet as well. Now it's painted this brown color. I want it to look more like distressed wood and kind of like a tree slice on the side. So I distressed it with the beachcomber beige, and then I used a baby wipe to kind of just, blend it together to try to get the color that I was looking for. And I just don't want it to be super dark. We're going to be adding like a little yard and everything there for our fairy garden house. For this side, it's like an unfinished like MDF on the side. So I used some brown paint for that, distressing that part to try to make it look kind of more like a tree slice is what I was going for, since I have like the little wood stems for the legs. I wanted it to look more rustic to go with my fall forest vibe. And I went back in with some of the tan too to kind of give me a faux wood grain there on the outside. And I just kind of touched it up here and there until I was happy with it. I definitely wanted the different colors of brown and tan to show through and just make it, look more like wood and less like that dark brown color that it started with. So I just distressed it back and forth until I was happy with it. I think this is the final coat of paint on this one, and I like the color way better. Now for the little pumpkin, we're going to sit it right here in the center, and we'll have room to do like a little yard area to frame this out and really make this pop. For the house, it has the door. There's like a little bit of opening between the doorway and the pumpkin, and there is moss around the windows. So I decided to add some reindeer moss from the Dollar Tree, just tiny bits here around the door. And it really kind of sets the feel of the fairy garden house. I'm going to do maybe a little over here as well, but I don't really think the windows need it. Down here, I definitely need it to kind of cover that void down there. And so I glued some of that to the very bottom, and that helped. And now I can go ahead and attach my fairy garden to the tray. I just put some hot glue on the bottom of the pumpkin and then glue this right here in the middle. I noticed Dollar General had fairy garden stuff too. Most of their doors and stuff were larger though, so you're probably going to need a larger pumpkin. And so I glued it, and now it's time to decorate the yard. I want it to look kind of like a forest floor, so I'm going to use the browner floral moss from the Dollar Tree. If you only have reindeer moss, I think that would be really cute too, but I kind of like the brownish color of this. I just go around hot gluing that down because it doesn't really stick together like the reindeer moss does, so you really need to kind of glue it down. But I also want there to be a little bit of reindeer moss mixed in. It makes it look a little bit better there with the different colors of green. Now for the yard, I wanted to have mushrooms for fall. I love that idea. I picked up two different kinds of wooden mushrooms at Dollar Tree. These were actually not in the fall aisle. I always find these in the crafter square. They have two different ones, as you can see here. And I am going to paint these because they are just unfinished wood. I started with white, and then I looked at the mushrooms on the windows, and they were more of an ivory. So I switched up to ivory, and I'm painting just the stems and the underside of the mushroom, and then I can go do the mushroom caps in different colors. Super cute. I don't know which one of these mushrooms I like better. I kind of like this one. It reminds me of like the morel mushrooms that we would always go mushroom hunting for when I was a kid in Missouri. So I went ahead and painted three of them. And then I'm going to paint this maroon. I have a paint pen. I thought that would be a really easy way to paint something so small. And I want them to coordinate really well with the mushrooms that are on the windows. So I just went ahead and painted these red. I'm also going to go in and add spots to them. I like a mushroom with spots. I think it looks really cute. I'm going to do the same maroon color with this one, and then I'm going to mix it up with a different color for the third one. These were really easy to paint, so don't be afraid to buy the unfinished wood ones. This one I decided to do brown, and I think that's going to be really cute with the color scheme as well and really look cute planted out in the yard. I'm not going to do a lot of plants. I think mushrooms is going to be enough. Now there was already dots on the mushrooms on the windows, but you couldn't really see them. So I painted those white with a paint pen. Very cute. And then I'm going to go ahead and do white dots on these as well. These are larger mushrooms, so I kind of switched up to a larger paint pen to make it easier to make some little polka dots and just kind of a random pattern all around. I love decorating with mushrooms for so many seasons, but I think fall is definitely my favorite for that. It's just so cute with the forest theme. So I did go over it with a couple coats there on the brown to really make that pop. I do want a little area like a sidewalk leading to the front door. So I kind of made a path there in my moss and added a little bit of this like pea gravel from the Dollar Tree in white. And then now time for the mushrooms. I'm going to have them kind of be random, gluing them to the wood tray here in the yard, just where I think they would look good. I did a total of 3 since I already had so many mushrooms on the windows. And then I'm also going to add a little bit more of the moss here around the door, but this time switching it up to that browner floral moss. I have an acorn that a nice viewer sent in to me, and I am going to add that there to the front yard. And then I found this little bridge at Dollar General. It's covered in moss. I thought this would be really cute. I don't have a lot of room to work back here, but I thought a bridge would add a nice fun aspect to the back of our little pumpkin fairy garden. And I just glue that here on the back. And these pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, they've really started painting these better. These look so much better than some of them do. I'm going to use maybe 2 of these in the yard to go with the pumpkin theme. And here it is, our little fairy garden pumpkin. I love the idea of turning a pumpkin into a fairy garden. I think it can be so cute. And this is the final result. Let me give you a closer look of our pumpkin fairy garden. Very fun, and I think it goes really well with our fantastical forest theme because it mixes together pumpkins, mushrooms for fall, and like fantasy like the fairy. So perfect for this theme, and I think it turned out really cute. What do you guys think about this DIY? For the next DIY, I wanted to make a fun fall scene, and again, I'm going with the fantastical forest theme. I thought I would try one of the paper craft kits from the Dollar Tree. Just for those of you that don't have access to a printer, something that you can use from the Dollar Tree, they have a little fox and a raccoon in this paper product. And I'm also going to be using some of the fall leaf napkins from the Dollar Tree, one of the wood pumpkins, and a wood square. I want to layer the different designs, and so the first thing I'm going to do is decoupage the wood square sign with one of these fall leaf napkins from the Dollar Tree. I just make sure to separate it only into one layer, and then I do a very thin coat of Mod Podge all over so I can decoupage this on. And what an easy background for this sign. And look how it's like the perfect size. And it looks like a wood grain, like panel background with leaves all over it. So I think that turned out really cute. I just smoothed mine out with a dry paper towel and gave it a quick dry, and then carefully tried to sand that. You have to be careful, those napkins can really tear. And then I am going to just poke some holes here and here so we can just add some twine to make a new hanger for this sign. I wanted to do a whimsical sign where I had like a fall plaid pumpkin on top of this fall leaf design, and then we can also add little fox and raccoon to it for fun. So I just added the twine, knotting it there on the front. And then this is just the plain wood pumpkin. It doesn't have the little bump out part, so it's really easy to decorate. And this is the fabric I'm using to decorate it. It is a fall fabric that I got at the Dollar Tree with greens and oranges. Perfect, I think, for this theme. I'm just going to cut out a piece a little bit larger than I need. And then I want to add this to it, but it definitely needs a quick iron. I moved my heat press to my crafting station and I use it all the time there. It was a great idea. And I am going to simply sketch this out now that I have it all flattened out and easy to craft with, so I can cut this down to size before I add it to my other sign. And I love the standard things from the Dollar Tree that they have every year, like the pumpkins, the wood pumpkins, the wood leaves and stuff like that. They're so fun to try to find different materials to craft with. And sometimes these flat signs, like the pumpkin sign, are my favorite because you don't have to remove the little bump outs or anything like that. I did injure myself in a video the other day doing that on the fall leaf. That thing was really on there. And so I think that looks pretty good. It's a little bright. I do tone it down a little bit, but it's fine. And I am going to do a thicker coat of Mod Podge all over the wood pumpkin and glue this on there, kind of using the fabric from the Dollar Tree like you would use like a scrapbook paper or something like that. But it's going to give you a fun texture as well. I'm going to smooth that out, trying to make sure I have really good adhesion and none of my fabric's going to come up. And then we're going to have our little fall pumpkin on top of our little leaf sign. I attached it with hot glue and it fits on there perfectly. I love the contrast between the two. I think they're really fun together. Now for our little fall woodland creatures, these just pop right out. I'm going to do the fox and the raccoon here. I was thinking about doing the autumn word as well, but I kind of liked it, I think, with just the creatures. So I wanted to try something that, you could use if you didn't have access to a printer, something from the Dollar Tree with that fun woodland theme. I thought about adding the acorns too. I kind of went back and forth on the acorns. I just add some Mod Podge here to the back, and I'm going to have them towards the center of the pumpkin where they're right next to each other like little friends. And I Mod Podge both of these down. I do want to add some fun details to this too, so it doesn't look just so much like paper. And then I'm going to Mod Podge here on the top to help seal them. I want to try to take away any of that glossy that I can get. And I also want to try to seal the fabric as well. I'm just trying to take down the glossiness on there so it looks a little bit less like paper and more like the matte finish of everything else on this design. So I did go over them with a couple coats of the matte finish Mod Podge. And then I added the acorns and then I removed the acorns. Do you ever add something to your project and then be like, oh no, I shouldn't have added those? I mean, I think they're cute on there, but I didn't want to add too much because I already have all the busyness of the leaf pattern in the back. So I do end up taking those off. Now to separate the pumpkin and kind of shape that out a little bit, I'm going to use just the thinner brown rope from the Dollar Tree. And just starting here at the very top of the pumpkin, I'm going to hot glue that around. That's going to help seal off, the raw cut of the fabric that we use to cover the pumpkin. But it's also going to kind of separate. I've got two busy designs really working together here. And I really think that the shape of the pumpkin kind of gets lost a little bit without a little bit of definition. So the rope border definitely works well for that, and it's definitely a really easy way to do that. And I just went all the way around the pumpkin, and I'm going to leave the pumpkin stem plaid like that too. I think it looks cute. So I'm just going to have my seam be right about here. That's a good place for a seam. It's not going to be real noticeable. And then I wanted to slightly distress these. So I just used a little bit of ivory paint and I slightly distressed the paper pieces too. Because again, I was trying to get away a little bit from the paper look of them and make them look a little bit more artsy. So I went ahead and distressed all of those, including the acorns that I'm probably going to lose here in just a second. I also decided to distress the fabric a little bit too. I wasn't sure if I was able to do that, but I did. I just kind of used some of that same ivory paint and went over the fabric using a baby wipe to kind of blend that in, and it kind of toned that bright green and yellow down just enough because it was a little bright for my taste. That's when I decided, I think I like it better without the acorns, but that's okay. It was really easy to remove. I just washed these off. And then I'm just going to kind of distress the areas where they were so it blends in. Now, then I decided I wanted to make a frame for this, for the entire project. I'm going to use the wooden easel kits from the Dollar Tree. I ended up using 2 kits for this one. They have these great wood pieces in them, and I love framing things out. You can make a nice thin frame with these. I'm going to use one of these straight long pieces here for the side, and then I'm going to have a piece for the top and the bottom. I'm not going to miter any of the corners. You can if you want to get fancy with your saw. I'm just going to have it kind of go end to end like that, leaving enough room for the top and the bottom one there. So it will form a corner. And so I'm going to need a piece for the other side the same length. And I just cut those down, trying to cut off like the little hole that was in one. Some of them have points on the end, just giving me straight little board signs. And these can be really great for framing. I've been using them to build so many projects. I do prefer them over the old easel kits that were already pre-assembled. I like items like this where you can kind of take apart the pieces and use them for something else. I do want them to have a rich warm color though, so I am going to give them a quick stain with some antique wax by Waverly. And then I want to frame out the project with these. Anytime I can add like a stained wood frame for fall, I'm definitely going to do it. I think it really adds to the warmth of these projects. And again, I am going to just go in here and do all the sides because you're going to be able to see the different sides of the frame and not forgetting the ends. And then I just kind of wipe off the excess with a paper towel. Now we can start putting this together. This is going to be like one of the side pieces. You might want to do the top and bottom first. I don't know if I got this lined up perfectly, but I'm just going to hot glue this on. As you can see, it's a nice small frame, so it's not going to interfere too much with my pumpkin. I have it kind of framed out just on the edge like that, so it doesn't really get in the way of my rope border on my pumpkin. And then I'm going to glue one here from the other side as well. Again, working around what I already have on there. It's probably a good idea to do this part before you add the pumpkin to it. I got it to that point and then I was like, you know, it really needs a wood frame. So I decided to add this to the project. And I'm glad I did. I think it really finished this project out well. So again, I'm just going to hot glue it here to the edge of my sign. And I'm not too concerned about the corners. I just want them to look relatively square here. And then I added the top piece the same way. Now I'm almost done with this DIY. It was one of those projects that kept evolving a little bit. You know, those projects that need like a little bit more. I wasn't too sure about my corners, so I did reinforce them with my staple gun just to make the project a little bit sturdier. And then to decorate the top of the pumpkin, I decided like some of the acorns from the Dollar Tree and some fall leaves would be really cute on there for the fall theme. And then I don't have to do too much with the pumpkin stem. I just attached those all with hot glue here, kind of going off in different directions. And I tried to use some different fall colors for this as well. Now I do like the little raccoon and the fox on there, but I thought we can make them look even more special if we framed them out with some twine. So I'm just using my fine tip hot glue gun because I don't want too much hot glue. And I'm going around with the twine and gluing it everywhere where there is the white paper outline of these. And I'm really glad I added this last step because I really think it added a fun texture and softness to these and made them kind of more integrate into the project itself. I just didn't want it to look like something that I had glued paper to. And I think that the outlining really helped. So I just kind of did one little section here at a time, attaching that with hot glue. And really you can just use one piece, but if you get to some areas like the tail and in between like the legs here on the fox, it can be a little bit easier just to cut them down into individual pieces. But I just finished framing out this cute little DIY. This goes great with the fantastical fall theme, and I love doing woodland creature projects, especially for fall. They're definitely one of my favorites. So here you can see all of the fun fall fabrics, colors, different details. Definitely a little whimsical DIY. I wanted to see what I could do with those little paper plate kits, something that looks more like some adult crafting because I think those are kind of meant more for children. For this DIY, I'm going to take one of these little lanterns from the Dollar Tree. It's a glass candle holder. I think it kind of looks like a lantern. They are $3, like Dollar Tree Plus. The glass is actually not a vase. It comes out like that. And then I picked up a candle from the Dollar Tree. And I want to make this into a fun fall theme. So I'm going to use this great spray paint that I got at Lowe's the other day. I'm trying to remember the color of this. I just looked at it. It's rose gold. And I think it's perfect metallic color for fall. I'm just going to turn it over, the little metal part that was all black, and spray paint this. This was so easy to do. One coat of that metallic rose gold covered it perfectly. I let that dry and then flip it over and went ahead and painted the other side as well. This is going to be the top of it. Just kind of turning it here in my box, making sure that I get every surface of it painted. And I want to try a fun technique with frosting for the glass that fits right inside. I thought we could do like a fun fall cutout, something that would be really whimsical and go with a forest theme. So I'm going to be using the Rust-Oleum frosted glass spray on this. And I'm trying to remember where I got that. I've been using that for quite a while. I think I got it on Amazon actually. And I went to my Cricut and cut out some fall woodland animals. If you want the SVG for this, I'll put it down in the description below for you. I just did a simple silhouette, so I can just kind of place this on here like stickers without having to use any transfer paper or anything like that. And these are just going to be stencils, so it doesn't matter what color of vinyl you print these out on. I printed out the fox, the squirrel. I made a little bit smaller since it's a squirrel. And I also did a raccoon. I'm only going to do like 3 sides. I think you're really only going to be able to see 3 sides of the lantern. But you could, do another one on the back if you wanted to. And I just make sure that they are really down and secure. That way the frosted glass will not go there. And I can then remove that vinyl and have fun fall cutouts. The only thing I wish I would have done is maybe make them a little bit higher. I think when my candle burns down, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. But it kind of went towards the end. And then I'm using the frosted glass on the outside of this glass that goes inside that candle holder. I go around and do 1 coat all around. And with this, you can add different layers to it if you want more frosting. I went in and gave mine a quick dry with my heat gun, and I wanted a little bit more significant frosting so that you could see those fun fall cutouts. So once I got my first coat dry of the frosted glass, I did go on here and spray on a second coat to make the frosting a little bit more. And I just love the look of frosted glass. I think it looks so pretty. It can take the cheap glass items from the Dollar Tree and just make them look so much more high end. I'm going to give this a quick dry. It was really easy to take the vinyl off of this. I was pleasantly surprised with that. But this is what it looks like at this point with the vinyl still on there. But I want these to be like little windows shaped in these silhouettes. So I'm going to use my little Cricut weeder to get me started and just peel off the vinyl, leaving behind a little cutout here of a fox. It's not like super obvious like you would see with like the tinted frosting. Like I have like the sea glass tinted frosting, but I think it's perfect for this application. And it's just a way to make this little lantern kind of go with our little fall forest theme. There's the little raccoon on this side. Now to put this all together, I just picked up like an ivory candle from the Dollar Tree. I think that's going to be the perfect size for this. I'm going to slide in this little glass part here to the bottom. And then we can just add the candle to this. I'm using a real candle. If you had a battery operated candle, it might help light up the animals a little bit. I don't know if because this candle is kind of tall already, but it was a little bit harder to see some of the animals light up. Again, I think I might have put them a little higher if I were to do this one again. For the corners of our lantern, I'm just going to decorate it with just a little bundle of Spanish moss here in all 4 corners. I think we could make that look really cute, add some fall items to that. So the frame of this little lantern is, not so plain. I do love that rose gold color though. I think that's the first time I've crafted with that color. I really liked it. These are the acorns from Dollar General. I'm going to add some in this corner and pine cones from the Dollar Tree. I could only find them on like this floral arrangement from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to pop that pine cone off. It's a nice small one where it'll fit here in this corner. I just attach it with some hot glue here in the corner. And then maybe one more acorn over here. I'm only going to decorate the front corners where you're really going to be able to see it. And that is where our squirrel cutout is on this candle. Let me show you what this looks like lit up. This is what it looks like during the day. And it's subtle, but you can still see the little fall animals in there. You can kind of see like the fox there off to the side, the squirrel there in front, and the tail of our raccoon there on the other side. But I think it turned out really cute. A really cute lantern for $3. That price is not too bad at Dollar Tree Plus. And this is what it looks like lit up at night. This is what I was talking about. My candle kind of covering the shapes up a little bit. I don't know, a battery operated candle might light it up better. I kind of went back and forth which kind of candle, but for fall, I always like using real candles. I just think they're really fun and cozy. But that is another way that you could do this DIY as well. I really hope you enjoyed these 13 fall woodland Dollar Tree DIYs. It's such a fun theme. It's definitely one of my favorites. Please let me know which DIY was your favorite down in the comments below, or just come say hello. You can find me at Crafty Beach on YouTube on all social media. Enjoy the final reveal.
Open up the window. I'm breathing in the last of September. I can feel the wind blow, and the late summer sky is like a giant ember. Everything is turning into gold. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. Since I was a little child, every year for as long as I remember, all the leaves were running wild, going all the way until November. Turn the world around us into gold. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. I wonder where they're going, the flight of swallows sailing through the sky. There's no way of knowing, but maybe someplace far from you and I. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. Dancing through the last days of September.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's crafting marathon. Hopefully, you got lots of inspiration. I would also like to thank my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you so much to Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Marin Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Donna Tanner, Kim Rogers, Maria Cruz Pagan, Pal Puppy Life, Renee Albanese, Lori Hollingsworth, Mindy Hupp, and Jenny. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. If you would like to become a Crafty Beach Fun member, all you have to do is hit the join button on your phone or computer. You're going to get early ad-free access to my YouTube content and a badge next to your name when you comment down below, and a shout out in every video. And we would also love to see what you've been crafting. Make sure to share your DIYs with us in my private Facebook group, always linked in the description of my video, as well as chapters. I also have my Facebook page there too, which you should check out because I have lots of content over there. Would you like more fall crafting inspiration? Be sure to check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting for fall.